What's up, everyone? Brady for Yo here, coming at you with a review of the new Oceano record, Living Chaos, that dropped this past Friday, August 30th. It's the third album by this newer deathcore band, although the vocalist of this band has been trending on at least my social media quite a bit the last few months. Adam on Earth he goes by, and he's a pretty good deathcore vocalist, I would say. He has a really great growling voice. But unfortunately, as far as this album goes, I'm not really feeling it. Just to preface this, I do want to say that a lot of the criticisms I'm going to make in this video may not even pertain to just this band, but more just like a lot of deathcore in general. Like, if you love deathcore as a whole, like as a whole genre, then you're probably going to like this album. It's just kind of a hit or miss genre for me personally. And unfortunately, this album kind of checked off a lot more misses than hits for me. But starting with the criticisms that I think could be made to a wider extent to deathcore as a whole, my main irritant here is it's just instrumentally kind of boring and repetitive. There are very, very few memorable riffs and instrumental sections on this album. And the reason I say that, for me, is because of just this overuse of gent riffs and breakdowns. Like, the first track, Wasted Life, just beats to death that just militant bass drum groove that's like, you guys know what I'm talking about. They just reuse that same pattern in multiple different ways throughout the song, but it just makes it feel so repetitive. And then just 2 tracks later, they do pretty much the same thing for the first half of the track, Darkness Rising. It also just makes a lot of the album really blend together, and as a result of that, even in certain songs just by themselves, sometimes the parts that are meant to hit harder just don't really have that effect because they have the same energy as the whole rest of the song. Again, Wasted Life is a good example of that. Also, The Price of Pain, which I believe was the first single. In a full album context, that song just really loses its impact. Just the general boringness and cavemanness of the instrumentals on this album are definitely a big turnoff for me. Now, this next criticism, though, I think part of it is the wider scope of deathcore, but definitely I think part of it is also this album particularly. It's that it has a lot of like kind of ambient parts and stripped back, more quiet parts that are set to amp up the mood and set the tone of the song and build emotion. But the song itself oftentimes just doesn't add to that initial emotion at all. So what you're left with is a song where 3 minutes later, after it's over, you realize, hey, what happened to that intro part? That didn't have anything to do with the song. Mass Produced is an example of a song where literally that ambient intro just doesn't come back the entire song. But more of the tracks on here still manage to have that feeling despite these ambient parts just kind of like floating in the background randomly. Wasted Life, once again, also suffers from that, as does Darkness Rising, as does Living Chaos. Like, the music and the instrumentals on this album are so blisteringly angry and ferocious and dark. But when it has these, like, ambient, emotional, somewhat attempting to be tear-jerking, like, electronic add-ons over on top of it, it makes it sound a bit awkward. And in a track like Darkness Rising, for example, when that ambient intro does actually fully come back in the bridge of that song, then it just makes the song feel pretty pieced together and kind of robotic. These songs feel like these electronic add-ons are embellishments or unnecessary add-ins that just kind of disrupt the flow of the song. Or better yet, disrupt the flow of the album. Case in point, the instrumental interlude that they put in the middle of this album, which literally serves no purpose. It's not bad. Like, I'm not listening to this going, oh, that's terrible. I just think, what does this add to the album? Especially if there are several parts like this already throughout the album. I just can't focus on a specific mood or emotion that I'm supposed to be getting from these songs. Are they supposed to be angry? Are they supposed to be emotional? Without reading the lyrics, you can't tell. And before anybody comments it, I am absolutely all for melodic metal of any kinds. Like, my favorite band is Killswitch Engage, who like pretty much pioneered the melodic metalcore genre. Deathcore is at its best when it's mean sounding and just angry sounding. This album just doesn't do that. And it just tries too hard to sound ambient and mystical. But putting the criticisms aside, there are a few tracks on here that I do genuinely enjoy. Into the Flames is definitely one of the more dynamic tracks on here instrumentally. It has more of a mid-tempo feel to it, which I think does it pretty good justice, and it actually has a pretty cool breakdown. And there is also some ambiance in this song more towards the beginning, but in this song it actually kind of adds to the dramatic feeling this song is, rather than just feeling unnecessary or like a conflicting mood. Wounds Never Healed is one where I enjoy most of the song, but then the ending kind of just, again, falls into that trap of having conflicting moods over each other. I like that Stranger Things style synth intro and how it leads into this groove that has more of that, again, that mid-tempo stop to it. These more mid-tempo tracks on here, I find myself enjoying more. They remind me kind of Thy Art Is Murder's Hate album, which might be my favorite deathcore record ever. Where, again, a lot of the tracks on that album went for more of that just mid-tempo stomp. That record just had so many memorable tracks on it, but that's a different video. As far as this album, though, not many of the tracks are very memorable. The last song on here, Broken Curse, is one that I enjoy for the most part, although I do kind of think it overstays its welcome a little bit, being 5 minutes long. As far as the lyrics go for this record, I wasn't able to get much just from listening to it. Not a whole lot stood out from me from what I did get. I will say The Price of Pain, though, does kind of have some inspired lyrics that are more social commentary oriented, so I did enjoy the lyrics on that song. Wounds Never Healed and Living Chaos kind of do that in their own ways, but they just kind of aren't as interesting lyrically to me. The lyrics in those songs just are a bit more generic and a bit more vague. Like Living Chaos has the whole no one can save us thing at the end, and a lot of the lyrics in the verses of this song kind of have that whole set the world on fire type thing. They don't actually say it, but they kind of tiptoe around it. And the production, too, just doesn't really do it for me. Even aside from all of those electronic embellishments that I already criticized earlier, they just sound so unassuming production-wise to me. Like, the bass drum just doesn't have a punch to it. The guitars don't really have much of like a bite or a crunch to them. They sound pretty pristine. It's like the instruments on this album were produced in a way to just say, hey, listen to the vocals. That being said, though, one thing I do have to compliment on here is Adam on Earth's vocal performance. While he does mostly utilize gutturals on this album, they're good enough to the point where they really do hold their own. And it makes the times where he kind of gets a bit higher in his vocal range that more impactful. The end of Darkness Rising, he really goes for that high scream, and the vocal layering at the end of The Price of Pain is actually pretty sick. So I guess that is a good thing, because deathcore definitely is a genre that's very vocal focused. But unfortunately, that just isn't enough to save an album for me. Once again, if you're a deathcore fanatic, definitely check this album out. I am sure you will enjoy it. But unfortunately, I cannot relate. Living Chaos gets an 11 out of 30 for me. As always, thank you guys very much for watching. Feel free to subscribe for more rock and metal related content, and comment your albums below that you would like to see me review if I haven't already gotten to it this year. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.